Hello friends, and welcome back to sunny Sweden, apparently. It's the 25th of January and we've got some very weird weather at the minute. Yesterday it was +4, can you believe? So all of the snow has now fallen off the trees and it looks very different to what it did at the beginning of the week. So in today's video we're going to talk about heating. Now I've wanted to make this for quite a while, however we've been delayed by about 4 months. The plan that I had, which we have now achieved and we are enjoying, so I wanted to wait until it was, you know, all put in and done and make sure it actually works and my idea was good before I shared it with you all. And I can report happily that it's working very well. So we're going to talk about that today. Just a little introduction for those of you that don't know. This house we renovated. It used to be an old barn and this place is fully off grid. So there's no like municipal services coming in here. There's no water, we get that from a well. There's no electric, we make our own. You can see on the roof we have solar panels everywhere and we use a generator as well. And then for heating, obviously, there's no gas. It's not like in the UK, for example, where houses are very much on the grid. And all that really means is you're connected, like your services come from the grid. So, you know, your heating is gas and all of that. Everyone's sort of connected to the same source and each other, and you pay for it. Whereas with ours, we have to either generate or collect our own sources of energy. So that's basically what it means to be off-grid. But the observant among you will probably notice there's now 2 chimneys poking out of the roof. So we're going to go have a look at that now. So then, we're currently in the workshop, and if you remember a little while ago I made a video discussing diesel heaters. Now, as you can probably hear, the tick of the clock, that's it, because this is no longer on. Don't need to use it anymore, but it's still in place, as are all the other ones, because number one, I like backup, so I'm just going to leave it there. And number two, it's still valid, it's still good to use as a comfort thing, because we've had, although it's warm now, it's only about -4 today, we've had -26 I think with the new heating setup. And although it's nice in here, it stays at about 10 degrees, even in that weather. When I'm working in here, it's nice to flick this on and boost it up to like 15 for a bit and then turn it off again. So it's still very much valid. Originally, when we were first building this, these heated the whole house. This is all we had before we got the fire upstairs. And this one here has been heating this workshop for like over a year. You know, just solely this, and they work fantastic, but obviously it means we've got to buy diesel, and that's a tie that I don't really want. We want to get away from that, because you know, then we have to pay money to do the heating, and I want to be fully self-sufficient here, or as much as possible anyway. So we needed a better solution. Now, as I say, these are still valid. I made a whole video talking about them, so if you want to see that, I'll link it in the description. But the actual idea that I had, because these were only a temporary thing, that is now in place and working perfectly. So this is the first fire. This is the one that you haven't seen before, the new one. This is what has changed the game for us completely. So currently this fire is heating the entire house. The one upstairs isn't even on. I've not lit it this morning. So this is part one of the heating system. This obviously covers all of downstairs. Now, this is actually working far better than I thought it was going to, because it's heating the workshop. In there right now it's 14 degrees. Because I've positioned it centrally, it's almost bang in the middle of the house, pretty much. And then obviously the chimney goes up. I'll show you that in a minute. But because of where it's sitting, obviously this room is toasty. What is it in here? It's 19 degrees in here. And then I have this little fan on the top directing the heat behind you towards the workshop. And that's obviously coming to this door, and I have this little fan running, just assisting it, blowing in that way. And this alone is enough, as long as we keep the door open obviously, to heat this room nicely. And you can see here, look, -3 outside, 13.5 in here. And just with passive heating alone, with the assistance of these couple of fans, it's heating all of downstairs, which I didn't expect. I thought I would still need to be using the diesel heater in the workshop, but no, it's fine just off the fire. In the future, I do have plans. I want to build my own heat exchanger on the back of this, get some piping and plumb in a closed radiator system just powered from this. Have one in there and one in the workshop, just because why not make it even more comfortable. But for right now, this is working fine just on its own, which is amazing. And I mean, it's warm enough in here. I'm way overdressed. It's only because I'm going outside again, but I could be in t-shirt and shorts in here quite happily. It wouldn't be a problem. And that is just heated with this little tiny fire. I'll show you upstairs. So the chimney from the downstairs comes straight up here, through the floor, up through the ceiling and straight out the roof. So it's perfectly straight, which makes for insane amount of draft down there, which is good because then no smoke comes out the fire. But also, it's warm. Obviously I can touch this because it's insulated, but it does give off some heat. It's quite nice, you know. If you're feeling a bit cold one day, you can just come and hug the chimney. But obviously this is then radiating some heat out into the room. My thinking behind this was, when it's really cold and we've got both fires going, this will help, you know, put a bit of extra heat down this end of the room, which it doesn't really need, but the more heat the better. I actually think it looks really cool. It looks kind of industrial. This house is obviously very different anyway to a normal house, so something like this just fits right in, I think. And then this is our main fire for upstairs. And this fire on its own is enough to heat this entire upstairs space, absolutely no problem. If anything, it can get too hot and we have to open the doors. But I'd sooner have it too warm than too cold when it's, you know, -30, -40 outside. I would have liked to film this video with a nice raging fire in here so you could see it, but I'll have to drop a clip in of what it looks like, because today the downstairs fire on its own is heating up here just fine. That temperature gauge over there is 18 degrees in here, and we haven't lit this today. So yeah, just that little fire is heating this entire barn, which is pretty impressive. Obviously insulation plays a big factor in that, and we'll discuss that in a separate video rather than trying to mash it all into one. When it's, you know, -20, -30, have both fires going, and that's all we need. Just those alone is enough to heat all of this using wood. And the free part, I mean, you know, we're surrounded by forest. Obviously you can't just go and pick whatever you want, but if you had a piece of land with a bit of forest on it, then you're heating your house for free. Once you've obviously, you know, paid out the initial expenses for these things, that's the end of the cost. Then all you got to do is put wood in it and you get free heat. I don't think you can beat that, personally. That's like future-proofing yourself for whatever happens. You just can't beat wood stove heat for the heat that comes out of it, and also the endless supply of fuel that you've got to put in it. We've had to buy the wood so far for these fires. We just buy the trees. They're quite cheap, to be honest. We get a big load of trees, and then I cut and split them, let them dry over the summer, and then good to go in the winter. But we are currently working on ways of getting that for free. And once we do get that, that'll be mission accomplished, because then we got completely free heating. So yeah, there you go. That is pretty much all there is to it. It's very simple. That's why I like it. It's probably going to get a bit more complicated in the future when I start figuring out water and all of these things, radiators, but you know, that's all just for fun really, experimenting. But the main sort of goal, which we have now achieved, is we are heating the house independently. You know, we don't need to rely on anything else. We don't need to buy diesel, and we don't need to pay for gas and electricity, you know, like a conventional house. That's what being off-grid is all about for me. It's about being independent in as many ways as possible. And we're getting there, you know. It's a long journey. We have to tackle each step at a time. Heating, we are now tick. That's done. Power, we're getting there. During the summer, well, from March actually, from March until November, we are completely energy independent, just on solar. But then in the winter, obviously, it's a bit more complicated when you live where we do and there's no sunlight. But hopefully soon we're going to be changing our batteries in the house. So once that happens, that's going to change the game yet again for us. I think that'll be very interesting for you to look at. I'm excited about that. So hopefully that will be happening in the next few months. Keep an eye out for that one. But as I say, I will do an installation video moving forward for those that are interested. It's not going to be very long because it's very, very simple, the method that I've used. But I shall do it anyway for you. If there's anything else you want me to show, please feel free to suggest it below. If you want to see more of our just sort of daily life really, then there's the Patreon channel. It's linked in the description as well. That's just over £1 a month to join that. So I appreciate that's not for everyone, and you know, not everyone can afford to do that. It's understandable. It's very expensive to live nowadays. But if you do want to check that out, the link is in the description. There's over 400 videos on there now. So for your £1, you can have quite the binge watching session if you want to. I think that about wraps it up. So hopefully you found this video useful, and I'll see you on the next one. Catch you in a bit.